The University of Cincinnati has officially filed a breach of contract lawsuit against their former quarterback, Brendan Sorsby. UC is seeking a $1 million buyout from Sorsby after breaking his contract with Cincinnati to transfer to Texas Tech.
Ownership attorney has entered the chat. This is not about Brendan Sorsby addiction or his temporary win against the NCAA regarding it. This is about his current case. According to court records, the University of Cincinnati is suing its former quarterback in federal court in the Southern District of Ohio. Sorsby signed a 2-season NIL agreement in July 2025 that licensed his name, image, and likeness to the school, and they paid him $875,000 in the last season. The deal carried a liquidated damages clause of $1 million if he breached it. By early January, he entered into the transfer portal, signed with Texas Tech for a reported $4 to $6 million, and let them put his NIL on a billboard in Times Square. Cincinnati wants that million. Sorsby is fighting back, calling the clause an unenforceable penalty. The court in Ohio follows a 3-prong test to determine whether a liquidated damages clause is a penalty or enforceable. Sorsby is also arguing in the alternative that the contract isn't enforceable because it functioned as a pay-for-play agreement, not a legal NIL deal. I have a lot to say about that, but I can't fit all that into this legal lesson. Here are 3 lessons from this case that actually matter legally when we're looking at liquidated damages and how they actually may hold up. Well, damages must be inherently difficult to estimate at the time of formation. The first prong of the test is going to ask whether the harm from the breach was uncertain in amount and difficult to prove at the moment the deal was made. Sorsby can argue that the real harm was concrete and easy to measure. It's just the cost of signing a replacement and administrative expense of his exit. Figures that can be pulled from market data and program history. Speculative recruiting overhead cannot pass as a reasonable estimate of probable loss. It reads as a penalty. But here's the problem. In the transfer portal era, the price of replacing a starting quarterback is itself widely unpredictable. And that unpredictability is exactly what makes liquidated damages appropriate. So Cincinnati argument can be that the value a program loses when its starting quarterback leaves through merchandise sales, ticket revenues, broadcast, valuation, lost future profits, recruiting costs, and so on, it can be hard to total cleanly in advance. Lesson number 2. Exit terms should be negotiated at arm's length by equally sophisticated people. So the second prong will ask whether the contract as a whole is so manifestly unconscionable, unreasonable, and disproportionate that the figure no longer expresses the true intent of both parties, but instead operates as a penalty, meaning that the contract lacks a meaningful choice for one party and contains terms that are unreasonably favorable to the other party. Well, in that case, Sorsby can argue that he was paid $875,000 and the provision demanded a full $1 million to leave, and it was designed to coerce him into staying rather than making the school whole. Therefore, the stipulated sum is manifestly unreasonable, unrealistic, inequitable, and it was not his intention to be penalized disproportionately. Cincinnati can argue that the contract as a whole is neither unconscionable or unreasonable because it resulted from negotiations between sophisticated parties with equal bargaining power if he was represented. And he had a clear opportunity to understand the terms ahead of time, not retrospectively by the harm as it actually shook out. The primary purpose of a contract damages is to be compensatory rather than coercive. And then finally, lesson number 3. The third prong is going to ask whether the contract is consistent with the conclusion of the parties' mutual assent, their meetings of the mind, that this specific sum should follow a breach. Sorsby can argue that the parties never genuinely engaged in the estimation and adjustments that a real liquidated damages figure requires was not done. So a number dropped in as a boilerplate with no actual bargaining behind it lacks mutual intent that the test demands. Cincinnati can point to the clear, unambiguous, integrated language of the signed agreement and argue that when competent parties put their promises in writing, the words on the page are the best evidence of what they intended. The text clearly reflects a mutual intent. Agreeing to what is in writing and then attempting to discredit it later may not be as easy as just changing one's mind. Sorsby has the burden of proof, but Cincinnati has to win all 3 prongs to prevail in this state, in that particular state, Ohio. And Sorsby has to win, obviously, only one. But the catch for the pay-for-play argument is a double-edged sword. Even if it voids the contract against the $1 million, it does not automatically clear him. Other penalties may arise from that type of agreement. Contracts are not a game. Just because it's for a college sports, it's still nothing to play with. This is why I'm the ownership attorney.